It's been very interesting and relating to servants. It's a little hard for us to wrap our minds around. It may just be my interpretation, but they seem sort of surprised at how like we're trying to be very friendly, and maybe they're taken aback, but I think they kind of like it too. It's like by the end we sort of have this rapport going on. I feel that we've been sheltered from the class divisions quite a lot, but that it still seeps in, like the servants thing. It's very, there's a curtain, you know, and people are on one side or the other. The thing that I love about New York probably the most is that it's such a space-restricted place that you're rubbing elbows with people from different socioeconomic classes and, you know, different races and different, you know, cultural background. The environments we've been in are very controlled as far as who we interact with. Like, it's like, you know, these people go here and these people go here and they don't mix. I was actually very, you know, my adrenaline was just going when I got this email. So I called my dad right away, and I actually did want his honest opinion. My parents are Christian, and sometimes their spirituality and my spirituality converge in good ways. And this was one of those times because they were like, well, you must have gotten it for a reason, and you're kind of being like called to do it. And it's like, yeah, I think that's right.
Recently, we've settled into a very nice groove where everyone's participating and sharing ideas, and it's a collective process. And the workshops that we're going to be doing this week, I feel like, have finally really come out of a joint process, which wasn't always the case before. When one voice sometimes dominates that conversation when it comes to workshops or repertoire or whatever in a quartet, that's what always rubs me and gets me irritated.
Well, now we've got some really interesting elements, so I'd like to just go through them and see if we're leaving anything out, and then maybe start putting them into a structure.
We can even like make a comment about we're playing music that we don't have to get that translated.
Like some really good ideas have come out about sort of an overarching theme of listening and language as a universal way to communicate, and also something where we can identify cultural differences within it.
You know, and it's not like an entirely universal language. Like, it's easier, but it's definitely different as well. Yes. And like, one thing the flute player was talking to me about is that like our musics have different accents. And like he was saying like a scale for a raga in like my accent was like, but in his accent it was like, you know, and like they had like different accents, and I thought that was really nice.
In the South, a lot of country people talk like this.
It'll come more to them if we say American accent and Pakistani accent or something.
Oh,
and then even if we just say Pakistan, so then the whole thing they'll just understand. Pakistan.
We're trying to compare it to language very directly, so we're going to say, even if we are speaking the same words, we can speak them differently based on our accents and our different cultures.
Could we somehow take like a piece of Western classical music and play it in like a typical Western way, and then like somehow re-accent it in like a more like Pakistani traditional way, like how you would play this if it was given to you? Like,
yeah, maybe why don't you try that, and if he copies it with the sitar, memed that thing, the sound, then you could understand his way of thinking.
Yeah.
You brought up Twinkle Twinkle Little Star before, and like that might be a really easy one to show like different like slides and accents on.
It would be really interesting to hear what that sounds like on sitar.
Let's try it first in a very Western way. Ready?
In with like drones or very simple harmonies.
Or yeah, what if we, and then that's the step in the middle, is we add harmony to his part.
And that's
Like that's the when you put them together, we add an accompaniment to his that's Western.
Yeah. That sounds because that is the combination.
We're going to show how, even if it's the same song, it's played differently based on our understanding of our musical values, basically, our musical value system. We're showing our version first, which is very, the melody is very straightforward, but we're enriching it with lots of lush harmonies. And then when we add sitar, he embellishes it the way that he would if it was like a rag.
That's clearly not having the music meet on equal footing. You know, it's taking a Western melody and doing something with it. And a Western melody that's like come here through like a colonizing process. You know, it's like the history of it is like sort of problematic.
Nice.
As long as everyone's contributing, I don't really feel like I have to spit my ideas out there, which is why like I'm kind of quiet. Everyone has great ideas, so if there are great ideas, I don't need to generate great ideas, you know. I would like to be the guy who facilitates, because this is supposed to be the role of the viola and the string quartet anyway. The way that Western string instruments are tuned, the violins are always going to sound a bit high, and the cello is always going to sound a bit low. Just the physical properties of the sound make it work like that. So you have to glue everyone together and convince the cello, maybe play a little higher there. And convince the violin, I think you need to play a little lower there. And so that people of that temperament tend to become violists, and then it's reinforced, because it's not a solo instrument, you know. So you have to be able to say, well, I see how you think that, you think that. But possibly you can come together and make something that puts both of these ideas together. You know what I mean? It's a little hard to adjust to all new personalities and trying to figure out how everyone wants to work together. You know, there's always a rub. Of course there's a rub. It's not string quartet playing if there's no rub. So when there's a rub, you have to get out the aloe vera and, you know, rub it on there so that the rub doesn't hurt too much. I feel like the tabla should be the hip-hop instrument, right? Instead of like a drum machine or a drum kit, tabla. It's so obvious. It just sounds so funky and so cool. It's amazing. Sometimes they start doing something, like the tabla players say, we'll start doing something. Oh my God, that needs to be like in a song. Why is that not in a rap song right now?
People are always appreciative of a female playing a tabla because it somehow, I think, felt that it's not possible. Maybe, I don't know.
Working with Lena has been a completely different experience than working with some of the other musicians. All the other musicians we've worked with have been from musical families, and it's felt a little hard to jump in and kind of assert myself and kind of get some respect initially so that they pay attention. But she was an architect and then decided that this is what she wanted to do. So I think her approach is also different, and it's maybe a little more relatable.
As a woman living in this country, reading about so many human rights violations, that you really feel that one should just become a full-time activist maybe and do things actively to change the face of society, especially with regard to women's violence and everything. And sometimes I feel that maybe as a woman I should do more. Maybe I should do that. Sometimes I have had those feelings.
I had a conversation with Lena, and we started talking about actually how she's very engaged with teaching tabla to younger people, and she's really interested in music and education and how to use music as an educational tool. And those are a lot of my interests as well. Suddenly this like whole world of common understanding was opened up, which hasn't necessarily been true with a lot of musicians we've been working with. A lot of them are just working professionally as musicians, and they're very much like involved in their traditions and are not necessarily thinking about what would it mean to be trying to use this in an educational setting.